Today I'm going to make a video about the Springfield Armory XDM Elite 10mm compact. This has a 3.5 inch barrel and holds 10 rounds. So we'll just go over that gun and then we'll compare it to, and I'll show you what I got in the box, and then we'll compare it to what has been my standard 10mm carry, which is the Glock G29 slim frame. So first I just want to show some different 10mm ammunition, because all 10mm ammunition is not created equal. I have a couple of different types here. So for plinking, target practice, you know, just general high volume ammunition, I normally shoot something like this Seller and Bellet 10mm ammunition. This is 180 grain. I think the feet per second is, give or take, it's a full metal jacket. I think that it is give or take 100 or 1100 feet per second, right? So that's this ammunition. That's what I shoot for basically plinking, you know, practice. Then there's ammunition like the Spear Gold Dot, which is actually 200 grain ammunition, and I think it's close to 1200 feet per second. So it's 20 grains heavier, and it is it's, you know, give or take the same velocity. This is jacketed hollow points, right? And then my favorite 10mm ammunition comes from a company called Underwood. And so I have a couple different types of Underwood ammunition here. So we'll start with this one first. So this is 135 grain. I don't know if this is showing up in the camera real good. This is 135 grain jacketed hollow point at 1600 feet per second. So I hope that's focusing. But this is, you know, 700 plus foot-pounds of energy out of this round. So this is full-powered 10mm ammunition. You know, companies like Underwood, Buffalo, Bore, Gold, Spear, to a certain extent, load much hotter 10mm ammunition. Another round that I actually like is this is 100 from Underwood. This is 150 grain, and this is their Extreme Hunter. So it's 1425 feet per second on the box, and I'll let you see the very unique configuration of this round actually. Let's see. So you can see the pedals here, how there's like an X shape there. I think that's why they call it the Extreme Hunter. But this is made to expand really rapidly and dump as much of this energy as possible into whatever you're shooting, and these pedals stick out as, like, you know, sharp peels on kind of a, when it opens up. So like I said, all 10mm ammunition is not made equally. In fact, a lot of 10mm ammunition is downloaded to velocities that you'd get out of a regular 40 caliber. So depends on the ammo in the 10mm, but it can be loaded much hotter. Obviously, I've just showed you, it can be loaded much hotter, you know, up to 1600 feet per second or so, and produce 700, 800 foot-pounds of energy. So now let's look at the Springfield Armory 10mm XDM Elite. And so in the box, got this, the gun's in here, a bunch of paperwork. It came with back straps, a flush base plate, and I'll show you why you would want to use that. And then I got the footprint. It's optics ready, and I got the footprint for the RMR. So so the Trigicons and Holosun, which I actually like Holosun. Holosun fits on this footprint too, I'm pretty sure, which is why I got this footprint. And you get the customary gun lock, that kind of stuff. So let's look at the handgun now. So you get this cool little pouch, and inside the pouch you have your handgun. Just make sure it's cleared. See, it's cleared. You have your handgun. You have two 10 round magazines with the extended floor plate on it so that it sticks out past the mag well, right? And I'll show you that here in a second. I'm trying to make sure this is focusing on the camera. And then here's your gun, and this is the XDM Elite. So we'll go over some of the features of this, and obviously I just showed that it was clear. So it is fully ambidextrous. There's a well, first I'll show you the purchase I get on. I get with the mag well on. I get pretty much a full 3-finger grip on this, right? It's got the safety on the back, the grip safety like you'd have on a 1911 or a 2011, which I don't mind this actually. I don't mind this because my normal grip is right across the top of that, so this is not a big deal to me. It's got the inside what they call the meta trigger, which is an enhanced performance trigger. It's also got like a Glock does. It's also got a trigger safety. There's no thumb safety or anything like that. It has a U rear sight, which is raised a little bit, and then it's got a front fiber optic sight, red front fiber optic sight. Here's the takedown lever, and that's the only part that's not ambidextrous. That's not on this side, but the mag release is. See, so mag release from that side, mag release from this side. The slide lock is ambidextrous. You have your slide lock on this end, your slide lock on this end. Although I have to say the slide lock from the right side of the gun is really stiff, whereas it's not as stiff from the left side. Maybe it's because that's the side I normally hit. Let's look at the trigger and see if the enhanced trigger is really enhanced. So cock it. All right, so pretty smooth take up. There's the wall. There's a little bit of travel there. Take up, wall. There is a little bit of travel there, but it's really smooth, and it's not gritty feeling like on some other handguns, which we'll get to the Glock in a second. Now the reset. Right there. And then there's no take up on the follow-up shot from reset. The reset, I could feel it. I could feel it in my hand. It clicked, and you could hear it, right? So that's the trigger. I would say for a striker-fired handgun, I kind of like this trigger. It's better than most. I mean, it's not a 2011 trigger, and after shooting some staccatos and other 2011s, I'm probably more conscious to how bad a striker-fired trigger is than a really good trigger on another type of gun. But still a pretty good trigger compared to most striker-fired guns. It also has a rail for attaching a light. There's actually grip. This grip isn't super grippy. It is kind of slippery. I mean, if your hands are wet, I can see how this wouldn't provide a whole ton of traction. It does have, and I like this, it does have some little bit of stippling or traction on the front of the trigger guard, so that when you're holding it, you can actually grip it with your finger across the top here to help mitigate some more of the recoil from the 10mm. All 10mm are kind of snappy. This one's no different. It's no more or less snappy than any other 10mm. I like the forward serrations. I like the rear serrations as well on this gun. It has a little indicator right there. I don't know if that's showing up in the camera. That when the gun's actually cocked, this sticks out, so it lets you know if the gun's actually cocked, right? And you can kind of tell if there's a round in the chamber. You can look through there and see the brass. So you can tell if there's a round in the chamber, and you can tell if it's cocked. Watch, it'll uncock here. See, that's what it looks like when it's not. That pin is completely inside the handgun. I'm gonna take. So that's the overview of the gun. It has a nice mag well. Really easy to load and unload this. I mean, I'm not being super careful and it's sliding right in. So I like the mag well. The mag well does come off, and if you take the mag well off, you can replace this base plate to have a flush fitting mag well. I carry this outside the waistband, so I don't need a flush fitting, you know, no mag well. I like the mag well, so because I carry this outside the waistband, I leave the mag well on for faster reloading. So I'll show you the holster that I carry it in. Oh, it is optics ready, right? Which I already mentioned because I showed the plate. It is optics ready. That comes off really easy, and you don't lose your rear sight when you take this plate off. You get to retain your rear sight, and that's kind of a big deal. So the holster that I carried in is just this leather holster. It fits really well. It's optics cut because I was thinking about getting a hollow sun. Holds it really snug. Can't see the trigger. You can see how if the optics plate was gone, the optic would be sitting right here and completely clear of the holster. This holster's broke in pretty well as far as the wings go. So that's the holster that I'm using for this handgun. I'm going to take this gun apart now, and then we'll look at the Glock and we'll compare some of the internals. So to take this firearm apart, you don't really have to pull the trigger. I don't know why I did, but you make sure the magazine's out. Slide this back to the slide lock. Set the slide lock. Push your slide release up. Then take the slide down and push it right off. So that's how it comes off. It comes off really easy. Inside you'll see that there is a dual captured recoil spring, and this recoil, the guide rod actually has some weight to it here, so this isn't a light flimsy guide rod. So that's that, and then obviously inside the firearm looks pretty normal. Inside your slide, we'll remove the barrel. So once you take the guide rod out, slide the barrel up, pull it out. Shows a little bit of wear in there from shooting, but I lubricate this gun really well. There's a little bit of a crown on the barrel. I think it has a match grade barrel. There's a little bit of scarring on the barrel from just shooting it, but I try to keep this really lubricated when I do shoot it. I think this has a match grade barrel. We will now take the look at the Glock, and then we can kind of compare it a little bit. So let's leave this broke down. Move that out of the way. This is my first 10mm, and it's probably still one of my favorites. Say what you like about Glock, they're pretty much indestructible. I've dropped this. I think I've dropped this out of a tree stand, and it didn't go off, so it didn't SIG P320 me and shoot me as it hit the ground, and it works just perfectly. So now let's look at the Glock. This is the 29 slim frame. It's also 10 rounds. Magazine's empty. Gun's clear. So this gun has the standard Glock sights, U sights, and it has standard Glock front sight. It's kind of a chunky brick like most Glocks are. As far as the trigger goes, we'll go ahead and pull the trigger. And it's not completely ambidextrous. The mag release can be moved over here, but I haven't. It's only on one side, so it's not ambidextrous, especially out of the box. And the slide lock is definitely only on the left-hand side, which is fine because I'm right-handed, and that's where I put my thumb. So on the trigger, we'll go ahead and magazine out. This is a standard Glock trigger, so it's got the trigger safety. There's a lot of there's some pressure here, even in the take up. But you get to the wall, And there's actually less creep in this handgun than there is in the other handgun from the wall to when it fires. And that's probably because I have shot this gun a lot more and taken care of it a lot less, to be honest. So here's the reset. The reset travels a little bit more. And then again, once you're after it resets, which you can hear and feel, it goes back off. It's got the standard Glock rail on it for a light, a small light. It's got a little bit of stippling under the hand grip, under the trigger, and so you can get a good grip on it, on the trigger guard. But what this doesn't have, it doesn't have a mag well, and it also doesn't, comes with two 10-round mags. And also with the mag in there, I do not get a very good, I only get 2 fingers on here comfortably, right? So the managing the recoil, this is a little more difficult than on the Springfield. So now let's take this down. So taking out a Glock is really easy, just like every other Glock. You have to pull the trigger on this one though, and then slide it back a little bit, pull down your tabs on both sides, push the slide right off. Here's the internals. Nothing special there. It has a dual captured spring guide rod. Standard for Glocks, except for like the Gen 3s. I think my Gen 3 has a single spring plastic guide rod. This guide rod is a lot lighter than the guide rod and spring assembly out of the XDM Elite. We'll take the barrel out now. Standard 10mm Glock barrel. Let's compare these two. So the barrels are, I know they're not interchangeable, but they sure are about the same size, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and put these back together, and then we can actually compare the guns themselves side by side. So I'll leave the camera rolling while I put them back together. Feel free to fast forward through this if you don't want to watch me put 2 guns back together really quick. So now that's back together. We'll function check it. Put the slide in, make sure it locks back. Function check. Seems good to go to me. Okay. We'll move this out of the way and we'll put the Springfield back together. Goes back together the same way. Slide the barrel in first. Put the recoil spring guide rod in. Make sure it's all the way down. Leave this lever flipped up. Can't see the rails. There. Get the rails started. Slide the handgun back to slide lock. Then flip this pin down. So a couple more steps than the Glock. Function check. Yeah, this trigger's lighter and smoother by a long ways. And I actually like this the slide release better too, because this sticks out a little bit more, so it's easier to push down on than the Glock. Glock doesn't stick out as much, although it works just as well. Trigger's a little heavier. All right, so let's compare the two Now we got them back together, let's compare the two handguns. I'm gonna kick this magazine out. All right, so if you look from the top, the Glock is way blockier than the Springfield is. You can see that from there. As far as the grips go, the Glock's grip is shorter. I think it'd be shorter even without the mag well. So concealed carry wise, this gun is easier to conceal carry with the handle, but it's with the grip, but it's a little bit thicker. So that's a look at the thicknesses. So now let's look at the heights. Like I said, with the mag well, there's a considerable difference with the Springfield, even without the magazine in. And as far as the lengths go, they're pretty close. Springfield's a slight bit longer. As far as shooting them goes, I think that let me check the bore axe here. I get a better grip on the Springfield. The grip's a little longer. I can actually use this mag well on my third pinky, on my pinky for my third finger. As far as the Glock goes, it's like shooting a bit of a brick. So that's a look at 10mm ammunition and 2 of my 10mm handguns. Again, so with the Glock, I carry that outside the waistband too. When I'm in the woods, at least, I have an inside the waistband holster. But this is just a regular Kydex holster from Vetter Holsters. They're in Mount Dora, Florida. Try to support them, especially if you live in Florida. They make great holsters, and they kind of make them quick too. I mean, the turnaround time is a week or so versus some holster companies, you know, waited 2 months. So let's see. Clips in really well. The Glock is not, I guess I should point that out. This Glock is not optics ready. If you want to put an optic on it, you need to get your slide cut specifically for an optic. As far as, but this is a more refined handgun. Better trigger, better grip, just all around. This is a better handgun as far as being refined. So we've looked at both of these handguns now for both my 10mm, two of my 10mm at least, and we've looked at some differences in 10mm ammunition. Remember, all 10mm ammunition is not loaded equally. Most regular 10mm ammunition from your local store will probably be loaded to 40 Smith & Wesson velocities, so no point in spending the extra money on 10mm ammunition if you're only going to get 40 Smith & Wesson velocities. So look for full power 10mm ammo. So if you like reviews like this, like and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions about 10mm ammunition, 10mm guns in general, I have a handful of 10mm from different manufacturers. So just leave me a comment and I'll try to answer, all right? Have a good day, everybody.